Hey there, it's Renessa Boley Lane, and I want to welcome you to another conversation on creating your perfect work. If you follow me, then you know I'm all about equipping you to discover, design, and get highly paid doing work you love, whether that means radically changing careers, launching a business, or bringing a big idea to life. So we're in the middle of a 7-day series on how to overcome overwhelm, how to overcome busyness, and create the time, space, and focus you need to get highly paid doing work you love. And so I've got a doozy for you today, though, that I'm really, really excited about. So if I told you that you could have an extra 30 hours 30 hours a month in your schedule, guaranteed, would you take me up on the deal? Because the woman that we've got on our show today, she is going to show you how. And so this conversation is particularly helpful if you're a mom. So if you've ever struggled with superwoman syndrome, if you've ever struggled with imposter syndrome, if you've ever struggled with paralysis by guilt syndrome, then you need to have this conversation. If you have ever thought that there is this decision that you need to make between being a great mom or being a great person in your career and your business, then this is a conversation that you need to have. And if you've never had kids, don't ever plan to have kids, this is a conversation that you need to hear as well. Like every woman needs to hear this conversation. And so the lovely woman who is sharing the screen with me today is none other than Christie. Kate is the CEO and founder of Time Stylers. She's a time management specialist. She's an international speaker, consultant, best-selling author of 4 books. The most recent is a book that I've read, which is called Me First: The Guilt-Free Guide to Prioritizing You. So Kate makes the big, bold claim that she helps clients to find 30 hours of lost time in a month. And today in our conversation, she's going to share with us how to do that. She's appeared on TV and radio and print media and all that good stuff. She's a commentator on productivity, time management, work-life integration. That's all the professional, buttoned-up kind of street cred, as I call it. Here's why I like Kate. Kate keeps it real. Like she just gets you. She just gets you. And it's refreshing to have those conversations where you feel like somebody just gets you. They're in your head. They're talking your language. I've read her book again. We're going to talk a little bit about Me First as we go on, but it's funny. And it's like you just see you in her work. And I think that's really, really, really powerful. And it's really, really attractive. And so I live in California. Kate's in Australia, and I am committed to getting back to Melbourne for 2 reasons. 1, I'm going to the Australia Open, and I've told Kate about that. And 2, I'm having a drink with Kate, and I have not told Kate about that. Those are the 2 reasons why I'm getting back to Melbourne. But with all that said, I want to welcome you, Kate, to the conversation, and I'm so glad to have you here.
Oh, look, it's an absolute pleasure, Renessa. I've been so looking forward to talking to you about all of this. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you know what? Let's get into it. I love your story. And when we first had a conversation about kind of pulling this project together, I didn't know Kate from Adam. Like we'd never met. We've never heard of each other. I stumbled across her and was really, really interested in her work. And we reached out and we're just chatting casually. And she told me her story and I was like, it's a wrap, it's done. We're talking about this. And so please share your story, how you got here, how you're doing the work that you're doing. I think a lot of people would resonate with some of your experiences.
Yeah, look, I think I had that sort of very typical kind of Australian 1970s upbringing where, you know, all outdoors and my parents had 3 daughters and they just equipped us with this belief that we could do and have whatever we wanted. Yeah. You know, you want to do it, go get it done. And I firmly believed it, and it worked really, really well for me through school and uni and into my career. You know, bit of ambition, a lot of hard work and grit, and you could literally have whatever you wanted. And it all worked really well for me until I had kids, and I had 3 babies in 3.5 years, which was entirely my own fault. I should have realized what was going on. That's totally on me. But, you know, the wheels started to wobble, and this whole idea of you can have it all really sort of slapped me in the face. And I felt really aggrieved and cheated. And it's like, you know, I've been lied to. And it all really came to a head one morning. I was working as a senior executive in an ASX 500 firm, and it was, you know, being this superwoman and trying to do it all and be it all and being an amazing mom and this amazing corporate exec, and I dropped my preppy, my little kinder kid. He's 21 now, by the way.
Yeah,
but, you know, he was like 5, and I dropped him at school, and it was cupcake day, and I didn't have any cupcakes. I
always
missed that
cupcake day.
bloody
Always
memo.
cupcake day.
It's always something day. And so there I was in my beautiful suit, my lipstick and my high heels, and I had this, you know, hysterical toddler clinging to my leg, and you know, the looks of sympathy or disdain from the other parents. And I kind of fled to the car and just felt this phenomenal sense of guilt. And I got into work. I got into my first meeting of the day, walked into the boardroom, and I was late. And everyone around the table, the boardroom table, went quiet, and they all looked at their watches, and they looked at me. And I just had this profound realization that I was the only member of the executive leadership team that didn't have a full-time wife.
You need a wife. Every woman needs a wife.
And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I was killing myself trying to be the best possible mum, trying to be the best executive. I felt like I was failing at both. I never felt fully present in anything that I was doing. I was at home, I was thinking about work. I was at work, I was thinking about home.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you kind of absorb the judgment of so many other people around you. And I lost an enormous amount of confidence. And I think for your listeners who are women who are also mums, but who are career women or business women, certainly my experience has been with the women that I work with, that we are amazing. You know, we are smart and talented and equipped and driven. And then we have kids and we take this enormous blow to our confidence. It's because all of a sudden we're in this world where we've got no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
And there's kind of rule books, but none of them make sense because your kid's not doing whatever all the other kids in the books are doing. Yeah. And I think that then coming back into the workforce, we come back very different. And I think there's a confidence issue, there's a guilt, there's judgment, there's superwoman syndrome, there's never being able to say no. You know, there's this cacophony of I'm going to call them mistakes that we make because we put too much on ourselves. Yeah. So I took a step back. I left my amazing corporate career because I had backed myself into a corner where I felt that I could either be a great mum or have a great career, but not both. And I was absolutely, completely 1,000% wrong. But that was the choice that I felt that I had to make at that point in time. And I guess that's the work and the life I lead now, is making sure that no other person, woman or man, ever feels they have to choose between two things they love for want of time. So I'm all about getting you all the time you need to have all the bits that you want, all the bits that are most important to you. Because we don't need it all, right? We just need the bits. We just need the bits that make each of us as an individual shine.
Yeah. I love the story, but B, I love the idea of all the bits. And what's really interesting, the older I get, I recognize that, to your point, I don't want a lot of bits. Like, there's a lot of bits that we think we should want, but when you really boil it down to what's important to you, what do I value, what really floats my boats, it's only a few little bits. And those bits don't change so much over time. Like, you get to a certain point and who you are doesn't change that. What you value, not who you are. We're constantly evolving, but what you value doesn't change that much over time. And once you realize that it's just a little bit, and if I'm true to my bits, then it drives the decisions that I make around what I do, what I don't do, what I add, what I discard all of that just because I can add stuff that don't make a hill of beans to my bits. So I'm
I
doing
love
anything for my
that.
bits.
Yeah,
So,
that's it. It's not doing anything for my bits.
not doing anything
It's
for my bits.
true. I mean, it's really about having that discussion, making the distinction between what are my values versus what do I value. And once
That's
we
interesting.
understand that we need to switch that thought and that concept, what do I most value? They're your bits, right? They're the bits where you need to then invest your time, because time needs to be invested, not managed. We're not here to manage time. We can't. Time marches on, baby. We've all got exactly the same amount of time. It's how we invest it, not how we manage it. So, start thinking about your time the way you think about your money. It's an enormously valuable, precious, very, very limited resource that needs to be invested for the greatest possible return. Yeah. And that's where it comes back to: invest it in what you most value. But in order to do that, you need to actually understand what you most value. You've got to do a piece of work around this to understand exactly what those bits are for you.
Let me ask you this question, because you said it and I want folks to hear the distinction there. You said that you got to understand what are my values versus what do I value. What's that nuance there? Because there's something important there, and I don't want folks to miss it, because I'm kind of missing it. So what's the distinction there?
Look, I think, for people who are interested in sort of evolving and self-development and learning, and people who have that curious mindset around improving themselves, often you will, who you are. I'm talking to you. You will start from a place of, well, what are my values? So many sort of these kind of self-help programs or aided programs will start from a place of what are your values? And it's the wrong question, because your values are things like honesty and integrity, growth, curiosity, success. Maybe it's financial security, motherhood. They're your values. It's the wrong question, because your values aren't around where you want to spend your time. Your values are how you go about spending your time.
Interesting.
Okay. So when I spend my time or invest my time, I'm going to do it with integrity, and I'm going to be trustworthy, and I'm going to be looking for growth. But that question doesn't help me determine where I actually want to invest my time. So when you flip the question on its head and say, okay, understand they're your values, they're the way you behave. Now, what do you most value? And to answer that question, there's some sub questions that will help you answer that. Things like, if you were really, really sick, what would you actually get out of bed for? Another question: think of the person that you most value, you most admire, someone who you respect to the point that if they were to compliment you, what would the compliment be? When you start asking yourself questions like that, it's going to help you hone in on what you most value. So for mine, I'll give you the example. Whilst my values are things like success and honesty and integrity and growth, what I most value when I answer those sort of questions, I have three things that I most value. Number one is my kids. Number two is my business. And number three is my health and well-being. So they're the things, if I was to receive a compliment from the person I most respect, is my dad. He says, Katie, you are an amazing mum. That's like a gift of gold to my heart. Katie, you run an amazing business. My business, my health, my kids. And so they're the things I most value. So I build my life around those things. My day, my week, my month, my year, my 5-year plan revolve around my kids, my business, and my health and well-being. And they're my bits. They're my three bits. Everything else is white noise. And once you have that laser-like focus on what you most value, it becomes so easy to say no to everything else. Because that's just white noise. It's a distraction.
I love that, because I do think the challenge with time for many women is this, there's so much white noise. There's so much white noise, and the white noise feels very urgent. And there's all kinds of belief systems that we've attached to the white noise about if I show up or don't show up, or, you know, this or that. So this is valuable. What's interesting, and what Kate has started to even, you know, introduce in our conversation, is part of kind of this 5-step process framework. I won't say it's process, 5-step framework that she takes women through, and it may be men as well. It's not necessarily relegated to women, but she takes folks through to really be able to get a handle on how they invest their time. Not really time management, but how they invest their time. What's interesting, though, is that when we think about our pain points, we often want to take the blue pill. We just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to drink. Just tell me what to, like, tell me what to do to make it stop, right? So we get a planner, and we get a new diary, and we get this new system, and we try to implement, you know, some framework or strategy or whatnot, but there's really no blue pill. Like, there is work that has to be done on you in order to be able to free yourself to get more of the time and more of the space and more of the focus for the bits of life that are really, really juicy for you. Like, there's just no getting around the work of it. And I think the challenge for many women is we can't stop long enough to do the work. Like, the work feels like too much on something that's already overloaded. And so we're going to talk about what the work looks like, and talk about the framework of the work. But before we even get there, I really want to help the audience get some leverage. Like, why is this a must for you? Like, why is it a must for you to master how to own your time? Like, I've curated this series, and I've pulled together these really great folks, and I'm doing it for you, but I'm doing it for me. Like, I'm doing it for me. I'm struggling in some areas around this. What do I want to learn? And then how can I take my learning and really put it out there to women that I get to serve in a big, so I read the book cover to cover, all kinds of notes, because it's an area that I want to grow in. But I really want to talk about what's the cost of not getting a handle on your time?
Yeah.
What's the cost of not doing that?
I guess the first thing I'd say is I completely agree with you. I mean, it would be ace if there was a blue pill, but there's not, right? So, you know, the first thing I'd say is you have to invest your time up front to get your time back. Like, there is a time investment that's required for you to get your life under control. The second thing I'd say then is people say, oh, you know, well, I'm just so busy, and I'm so busy, and how do I find the time? And the thing I'd say to you is, well, how bad do you want it? You know, how bad do you actually want it? Because it's like anything, a gym, or you got to go jogging. Well, how bad do you want it? If you want it bad enough, you're going to do it. So then I guess carving out that time, and what are the costs of not? The main cost is that you don't get to live your absolute best life. You know, we only live once, as far as we know, and this is it. You know, this is it. And so, why on earth would you not want to take control of your time? I see so many amazing women in particular that are just letting life happen to them. They're just getting up, and they're doing today the way they did yesterday and last week and the week before, and they're like that little mouse on the wheel. And that's not a criticism. That's I feel incredibly empathetic towards those women, and I want to just have them stop for 5 minutes and think about, how happy are you? How are you actually enjoying this? Did you sign up for this? Is this of your choosing? And if you can't answer yes to those questions, then it's time to make a change. You have to take control of the agenda. It's your life. So I guess the biggest cost is you just don't get to live your truest, best life. And is there a bigger cost on earth than that?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, I agree at the end of the day, that that's true. And inside your book, Me First, you actually break it down very, very succinctly. And I think sometimes we have to get real specific. Nothing becomes
Mhm.
dynamic until it becomes specific, because we can talk in the high level, and the high level doesn't always hit home because it's the high level, right?
Mm. Mm.
But you break it down. You talk about the financial cost of not getting a handle on your time, right? And this whole series is around how do you get highly paid doing work you love. And there's some of you who have this idea, there's this dream, there's whether it's you want to start a business or you want to be prolific in some, industry or whatnot. You've got this mission that you want to, bring into the marketplace, and you don't have time for it. And so you're paying, like you're leaving money on the table because you don't have the time to do what needs to be done, either to increase in mastery or to position your value in a certain way that the market wants to eat you up in a good way. Like you're leaving money on the table. There's opportunity costs when we're running about all over the place.
Yeah.
We don't have time to stop and even evaluate whether or not there's an opportunity out there that could be perfect for us. We just don't have the time to even stop and think and consider and ask questions and be curious and investigate.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, there's
when you boil it down, and I talk about this in the book, there's 4 costs.
Yep.
And each will resonate differently with various people because we're not all programmed the same way. So, the first cost to not using and investing your time well, as you said, is financial cost, right? So that's a very tangible measure. So, for example, if your hourly rate is $50 an hour and you spend an hour a day on social media, that's $18,250 of your time a year.
Hello.
Okay, so for those of you where the dollars resonate, that's a big one. The second cost lens is opportunity cost, which is, well, if I choose to do task A, or say let's take the same example, social media for an hour, what is the cost of my lost opportunity? What have I missed out on? What could I have done with that hour? I could have mind mapped out my new business. I could have created a new product. I could have gone after a new client. I could have got an extra hour's sleep. So I could have exercised, right? So opportunity cost. The third cost lens is emotional cost. How do I feel about the way I'm leading my life? Do I feel good? Do I feel bad? Do I feel guilt? Am I kind of regretting the fact that I'm letting my life get away from me? And then the fourth cost lens is physical cost. Is there anything that I'm doing that's making for pain? Am I sitting in front of my computer all day and not taking a break and I've got a headache? Am I, lifting all those heavy boxes and I'm hurting my back? Or am I forgoing my exercise? Am I not taking care of my diet? So they're the 4 cost lenses. Every decision you make, every second you spend each day is going to have a financial cost and it's going to have an opportunity cost. You cannot get away from that because your time's always money and there's always something else you could have been doing. On top of that, though, sometimes there will be an emotional and or a physical cost. So what's important is, for each task or each decision you make, the question I want you to ask yourself is this the best use of my time? And think about it looking through whichever of those lenses resonates with you. For me, it's often a financial or an opportunity lens that I personally look through. And that will help kind of, when I ask myself that question, it just helps me get back on track. I think, no, I'm kind of 20 minutes into trying to solve this IT issue and I'm not an IT person. It has a financial and an opportunity cost. Kate, get out of it. Go get an expert to do this so you can do other stuff.
Yeah. So many of my clients, I can see the physical costs, I can see the emotional costs, and it's painful. And I know for me, I'm one of those people, I can grind through a lot of things, But when my decisions around how I invested my time began to impact physically, that's where the burnout came from. That's where, all the warning signs and, the digestive issues and, all kinds of things started to bubble up. That got my attention. I was like, oh, whoa, something needs to, shift.
Yeah, I need to make a change here.
Got to make a change. And so for each of you listening in, your trigger points might be different. But the point is, get your leverage, whatever the leverage needs to be for you to say, I'm ready to embark on this journey to make major shifts, because, Kate's right. You got to, and sometimes we have to do more in the beginning to get so that we can do less on the backside, or to get what we want. But it's about doing more of the right stuff. It's not just running faster on the hamster wheel. That's not the more.
Yeah.
Many of us are paying the wrong price for the level of success that we want, right? So let's dive in to kind of what you call the 5 SMART steps, one by one. And it's a framework that you have created that really helps people to navigate through just revolutionizing and transforming how they invest their time to get more of the bits. I love it. I'm going to say bits. That's my thing now. The bits that they really want in life. So I'm going to let you kind of, give us the introduction as to what that is and begin to walk us through step by step what that framework looks like.
Yeah, sure. So look, SMART is an acronym, and it's an iterative framework. So it's not like you do it once and your life changes forever. It's kind of like you need to detox regularly. So it's a spring clean. You may come back to it once a year. So step 1 is self-aware, and it's benchmarking. It's getting an understanding. There's 2 parts to it. The first part is getting an understanding of what's getting in your way right now. So what are all the time issues that are causing me pain right now? And there's a series of exercises that you do in that. But, you'll flush out things like, well, my inbox has its own heartbeat. I have back-to-back meetings. I'm juggling too much. I'm trying to study as well as work. So there's a whole series of things that will be triggers for you in terms of what's actually getting in your way. Once you understand the pain, what are the pain points? It's then about understanding, well, what would a perfect day, week, month look like for me? It's about curating that vision of, okay, if all of the pain could go away, what would a great day look like for you? The idea of that is, and that's that values-based exercise in terms of what do I most value, because that's what I'd build my day around. So there's exercises around that. The idea of step 1 is to give you a point A and a point B. Point A is where I am right now, and I'm in a world of pain. Point B is, what would this perfect life look like? And then we kind of draw a line under that. It's like, okay, let's move on. Let's now get into the practical stuff to help you get your control back. Yeah. When I work with my clients, what I find is that there's 3, when you take all the pain points and you they're the symptoms, okay? So you could have 200 symptoms that are time pain sensitive, but you've got to diagnose them, right? So it's you go to the doctor and you have 1,000 symptoms, and the doctor's going to say, hey, you've got X. So after working with thousands of clients on this, the 3 parts to the diagnosis that I most commonly see, number 1 is we don't plan. We don't plan to succeed. We're not planning properly. We haven't got a 5-year plan. We haven't got a written 5-year plan, a written 12-month plan. Most of us don't even know what we're doing tomorrow, so we're not planning. The second part of the diagnosis is that we don't control the agenda. We're running around putting out fires. We jump to the loudest noise. We are very, very reactive, and we need to be responsive, not reactive. So the second part is around controlling your own agenda. The third part of the diagnosis is that we don't focus on the right stuff at the right time. I see this all the time where people just don't work to their energy. And I don't mean it in a kind of a woo-woo kumbaya, let's all pray to the god of time energy. I mean, if you are a morning person and you are best in the morning and you are banging out beautiful brain waves and you're enthusiastic and creative, then why on earth would you sit in your inbox for 2 hours in the morning? because your inbox is someone else's to-do list. It's not your to-do list. So focusing on the right stuff at the right time is really practical work to your energy. Step 2 is map. So this is where we get the data. I'm very data driven. Okay. So
let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question on that real quick, because I am a firm believer to work to your energy. I think that's critically important. I think an obvious question for some folks is, if you're an entrepreneur or whatnot, there's this belief that entrepreneurs or budding side hustlers or whatever have greater opportunity to control their agenda. If you are in an organization or you're in the workplace, someone else's agenda is your agenda. Oftentimes it's my boss's agenda, or it's, the teammates, or it's the project, or it's the client or whatnot. And so they are then dictating your responsiveness and your reactions and so on. So even with the example of, if my creative energy is best, during the morning, why am I spending the first 2 hours on email? It's because people are expecting something from me. How do you begin to take some level of control of that? And obviously that's getting into the further part of the framework, but that's the obvious question. Like, this doesn't even apply to me because I don't have control over my agenda. Or there's the belief that I don't have control over my agenda.
And it's an important distinction. It's the belief. Okay. So, if you are that person within the hierarchy of an organization, you will still have control over elements, right? So if you're the boss, you're going to be able to control more. If you're the most junior person, you're going to be able to control a lot less. But what you need to understand is, what can I control? And I need to seize full control of it. Now, there's a whole heap of then strategies around, well, if my boss is saying I need this now, well, how do we have that discussion with the boss? How do we communicate? How do you work out your priorities? How do you then, go back to your boss and have that discussion to say, hey, listen, I'm a morning person. Can we, switch our calendar around? And so they're the more sort of practical strategies. But at a higher level, everybody needs to understand that we have a base level of control. And what I see is that most people are even forgoing that base level. And so we, start small, but it's about clawing back control. Now, we can't control everything. I work for myself. I can't control everything in my day, but I have worked out exactly what I can control, and I control it. So it's about giving you back that sense of control. And then later on in the program, we then equip you with the tools and the strategies and the rhetoric that you need to go and have those conversations.
So here's the takeaway that I want folks to take from this point. And the reason I raised it is because if you decide in the moment that what Kate has just said is not even possible for you, like, I don't have any control over my time, or, it's being dictated or whatnot, then you end up shutting yourself off to every other possibility. Whereas there's always a way. And again, there's elements that may be beyond your control, but there is a lot that is. And so when we come to that barrier that says, as an example, I don't have control over my calendar or my agenda or whatnot, that becomes the problem that you get curious about solving. Okay, that's a roadblock for me. Let me just put it there, because it's my fact, or it's my reality for now. But I wonder, is there a way? What's the way over this? And you start asking different questions around, how do I solve that particular problem? So in this conversation, we might not be solving the problem of what do you say to your boss because you're a morning person and you want to rejig how you spend your energy. That may not be the issue that we solve in this conversation, but the reality is there's a solution to that. And so recognizing that just because you come across an obstacle doesn't mean, and just because you believe that there's no way around that obstacle doesn't mean that that's the truth, right? So at this point, the self-awareness is just about getting in touch with the pain and being honest about where the crap is. So then we can start to figure out what becomes our way forward to be able to get more of what I actually want. So next step you said is map.
So this is the data point. Okay. This is where we need to find out exactly where it is you're currently spending your time. So across at least a day, but a series of days, we map your time from the minute you get up to the minute you go to bed. Now, I don't want to sort of, when I see maps where I say 9 to 10 work, no, you know, unless you are fully focused for that hour, I don't want to see 9 to 10 work. I want to see 9 o'clock, open my emails, 9:15, you know, telephone went, 9:20 went to the toilet, 9:25 got a coffee, 9:30 back into emails, 9:40 Joe Blogs rang, took the call, 9:45 someone put their head in the door and asked me a question. That's what I want to see. I want to see that. I want to see every time you switch task, and I want to see every time you're interrupted or that you go looking for a distraction. And I want to see that through the course of the day, because that's going to give you a sense of how you're actually working right now. That's the data point. And the more detail you fill in that kind of time audit, the more you're going to get, more time you're going to get back without question. Step 3 is analyze. Sorry,
I'm gonna jump in there. I'd heard of doing a time audit. I've heard of it right before. And it's something that I'm so resistant to. Like, just because, like, in part because my skill set is not record keeping. Like, it's just not the thing that I should. Don't ever hire me.
And it's the most tedious thing in the world.
I'm terrible at it. However, so it's something I've been resistant to. But because I had read the book and I wanted to make sure to really play full out in getting to learn Kate's content, I was like, I'm doing the time audit, you know? And so yes, I'm terrible at the time audit, but here was the beautiful thing about it, because what it is is data. Oftentimes we think either more highly of ourselves than we should, or we don't really see a circumstance for how it truly is, you know, like the data, the numbers just don't lie, folks. They just don't lie. But here's what it taught me. And I hadn't gone through 3 days of audit. I actually just did the audit yesterday, and it was the most refreshing thing in its torture, because because I underestimate how long it takes to do so many things, especially things around my perfect work, because we're talking about creating your perfect work, creating the work that you are masterful at and that you're born to do. And I do things with a level of excellence, like I really, really do. And that's my commitment. Maybe it's a value or whatever, but I'm committed to doing it with excellence. But mastery comes at a price of time. And I underestimate how long it takes to deliver on things at the level that I want to. And this is not even about perfectionism. It's just about, this is the work product I want to deliver. And so doing the time audit, I was like, whoa, this took what I think I could whip up in a half an hour, took 90 minutes. And it wasn't 90 minutes of fritting away. It was 90 minutes of like deep work. And so then when I look at my schedule or my calendar and the pressure that I can put on myself at times, it's not because you're not doing it right or you're not doing it. It's because you've packed way too much stuff in, and it is impossible to do everything that you have committed to doing personally, professionally, and otherwise with flow and ease and joy and all this other stuff that you say you want, because it's physically, from a math perspective, impossible to do. Yeah. So that's what the time audit did for me. It was, wow, this is how I've been showing up for 20 years. Like,
and you think, no wonder I'm tired.
No wonder I'm burned out. No wonder I'm tired. No wonder. It's because it's physically impossible to do it. And so then when you don't hit the mark, there's all this judgment around, I'm not hustling enough. I'm not this, blah, blah, blah. It is physically impossible to do what you said you were going to do today.
So, and that is a perfect example of the control piece, right?
Yeah.
Because you didn't control the agenda. That's something we can all control, is better estimating how long tasks are going to take us, cutting ourselves some slack, not trying to jam so much into the day, which we can do as entrepreneurs or as professionals working in an organization. That's a perfect example of where you've let go of control, because you've just overestimated how much you can actually get through.
Yep. Let's talk through analyze.
Okay, so analyze, we basically then take the data from the time maps, and for every task we performed, whether it's checking my phone 50 times a day or it's actually getting some really good solid work done, for every single task we perform, we categorize it into one of 4 different categories: must, want, delegate, or reject. Must is the stuff that you have to do that only you can do. Okay, only you can do it. So if you work at a hospital and you're the heart surgeon and you're the only heart surgeon, someone comes in and they need an operation on their heart, that's a must because you are the only one who can do it. And when you think about it that way, there's not an awful lot in our business that is a must. The second category is the want. And that's when I first start working with clients, that's the one we see least of in their timesheet. So the want is the nice stuff. So it's not work related. So I don't want people to think, oh, well, I want to design this new product, so it's a want. That's a must. A want is the nice stuff, going for a jog, sleeping in, massage, catching up with friends.
It's what makes life sweet and juicy and rich and fun and stuff.
The two categories where you're going to find all the lost time buried, your 30 plus hours a month, a delegate and reject. So delegation falls into a couple of categories. We have your kind of typical delegation and in the work front where I say, here is a task, I'm going to get person X to do it for me. Simple delegation. Then there's outsourcing. This is where you identify everything that you currently do that you're prepared to pay someone else, an expert, to do because they will do it faster, better, and cheaper. They're the three rules: faster, better, cheaper. So I might outsource my IT from a work perspective. At home, I outsource my cleaning. The third type of delegation is insourcing. This is for the mums or people who live with a partner or a flatmate. Insourcing is where you identify everything that you currently do for the people that you live with, that they can do for themselves, that you don't have to pay them for. Clean up your wardrobe, put away your crap, make your bed, hang up your towel, finish the roll of the toilet paper, put a new roll of toilet paper on the toilet paper holder. So that's outsourcing and insourcing and delegation. And then the fourth category is reject. And this is a big one. There's so much that we do during the day that we could actually reject outright, or we could systemize and do differently. So a good example is I'm going to reject multitasking completely, because multitasking is the biggest waste of time on earth. When we multitask, our productivity goes down by 40%. So that's a total reject. Get rid of it. A partial reject or systemizing something might be, hey, I'm not going to go to the supermarket every single day because by the time I find a car park and a trolley and I go, blah, 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 I've lost half an hour every day. I'm going to invest an hour up front and I'm going to set up online shop so that it takes me an hour to do that right now, but I'm going to get back half an hour every single day in the future. So they're your rejects. So you categorize your time and that's analyze. And part of that framework or the exercises we do in that step is we look at things like our costs. So financial, opportunity, emotional, physical cost. And we categorize, we make a decision. Now, at that point in time, we don't want to worry about the how. We don't want to say, well, geez, I'd love to outsource the IT, but I don't know how, or I don't have the money to pay for it yet. At this point in time, we just want to know what's up for grabs, right? Because then you can start making some decisions. So that's step 3, analyze.
I think this is a really good point to park on, especially on the delegate and the reject. So I think for a lot of women, it's very difficult to let go of things. Like there's this quote, I wish I knew who had said it so I could give it proper attribution, but the person said, as women, we mistake having it all with doing it all. And there are lots of belief systems, hangups, judgments that we have around letting certain things go. Well, you mentioned that you outsource your cleaning. And there's lots of women who have this thing about the privilege that comes with having someone else come and clean their home. Like they didn't grow up that way or, what have you. And so there's this judgment that they place on themselves around, well, who am I to actually be able to clean my own home or, what have you. But yet when you start to look at the opportunity cost of the time that is spent with you sweeping the floor, and it's not even about money that you could be earning. It could be, instead of sweeping the floor, you could be out in the sunshine with your kid enjoying a really great afternoon. It's not always monetary. And a friend said that to me once. about, because I was trying to work out some things in my own kind of household situation. And she was like, why are you doing that? You and your daughter could be out roller skating or something, something else that really matters to you. And so to Kate's point here, this is not the time to figure out how to go back and forth with yourself about, should I want this or should I not want this? This is just about what's up for grabs, like what could go. And then when you feel some resistance and all that, then you can deal with whatever you got to deal with, therapy, work it out, read a book, pray about it.
Well, then you go back to part one of Me First, where you look at the guilt and the judgment and the superwoman syndrome.
You can figure out what's at the root of the resistance, but right now, this whole process is about giving you data on what is in your life and data around what you desire and want for your life. Then we can figure out all the judgments and hangups that you have about what you want in your life. But if you can just divorce and unhook yourself from that for right now, you can get data. And when there's data, objectively, we can start to work out the solution that gives you so much more richness and so much more joy.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's all about, the data at this point in time. And, it's that difference between, money affluence and time affluence. And, if you can spend a little bit of your money to get back more time and then use that time to go roller skating with your kids, then, for mine, that's money well spent, because that's more important to me than missing out on that time. Step 4 is reframe. So this is where you then kind of, deal with the guilt or the questions or the judgment, and you make some decisions around what you're actually going to do differently. And of course, you can't outsource everything in your life. We're not billionaires here, but you might have identified 10 things that you would want to outsource. Choose one and say, okay, I'm going to start with that, or that's all I can afford right now. But it's around creating more time for yourself. If you can't outsource around the home and you've got a family, insource. I mean, seriously, for those of you without kids and you decide you're going to have kids, have as many as you possibly can, because there's so much that you can get them to do around the house. So there's ways around this, right? So step 4 is reframe, and that's where you're going to make the decisions about, what am I going to do differently at work? What am I going to reject? Which habits are serving me in terms of my time? Which habits are not serving me? And there's a whole series of exercises that will flush that stuff out. But it'll be simple things like, we're not going to do back-to-back meetings anymore. I'm not going to spend time in my inbox in the morning because I'm a morning person. I'm going to spend my time in the mornings doing my high value revenue generating tasks, and I'll jump into my emails in the afternoon. Or I'm definitely going to stop multitasking because I know that doesn't serve me. So you make these decisions. And then step 5 is take control. And that's the implementation step. That's where the rubber hits the road. That's, you've decided to get fit. So you've got to put the runners on and go for a run. And often that's the point of resistance. The implementation is often the hardest step, because up until now it's just data collection, right? It's just sitting there and sort of, fantasizing. But that's where it comes back to this question of, well, how bad do you really want it? And if you want it badly enough, you're going to implement. And some people are great at implementing on their own. Other people might want to do it as part of a group or with their friends. Some people might want one-on-one coaching. There's people like me who are there to help you implement, but a lot of people will just implement absolutely on their own because they want it badly enough.
Yeah. What I like about what you said a few moments ago is this idea, it's not all or nothing. Right. And I think that particularly when we're dealing with high achieving women, we can look at things as all or nothing. It's black or white, it's 0 or 1. And if I can't do it all, I'm not doing any of it. Right. Or we look at our circumstances, to your point, I can't outsource everything. I'm not a billionaire. Wouldn't it be nice if I could just have people to do blah, blah, blah? Well, it's not about, can you have 15 things outsourced? It's what's the two that you can get off your plate? Just what's the
Exactly.
two, right? Yeah. What's the two things that you can do differently? Because I firmly believe that time will beget more time. So
Absolutely.
if you are faithful with the little that you have, that's why everybody has all the time that they need right now. Yep. to create work they love. Now, you might not have as much time as Kate, and Kate might not have as much time as the next person, or as much resource or whatever. That's not the point. You can maximize where you are. And as you maximize where you are, that's going to create more. But it's going to open up another door. It's going to open up another efficiency. It's going to open up another resource or support. And so just because I can't do it all doesn't give me it doesn't give me the excuse to then not do anything. Right.
That's exactly right. Yeah. It's not an out, it's, this stuff is cumulative. Once you start and you start chipping back, 5 minutes here and 10 minutes there and half an hour here and an hour there, it's like, oh my God. And it becomes really addictive. And it, it certainly becomes that sense of when things that you start saying no to, and you just get that sense of joy. Oh my God, I didn't commit to that. And oh my God, that's wonderful. And I've just bought myself back a whole heap of time. The question then becomes, which is kind of the third part of the book, is now that you've got that time back, or you're starting to get that time back, what are you going to do with it, baby? Because it's not about doing another 100 emails or another 25 loads of washing. You get 30 hours plus back a month. What are you going to do with it? And this is where it comes back to the point I made it right at the start, that, we only live once. You have to curate an incredible life. Don't wait for opportunities to come and tap you on the shoulder. You sit down and map it out and work out exactly what I want to do with my 30 hours. Where do I want to be? Where do I want to be living? What work do I want to be doing? What wealth do I want to generate? Who do I want to surround myself with? You've got to map this stuff out and then make it happen. We've got to plan and have these audacious, incredible goals, because you'll get your time back. If you do the work, if you follow the framework, you will get your time back. But now, how are you going to use it?
Yeah. And if you don't figure that part out, that time will get wasted. It'll get filled with all the stuff that you don't want to do anyway. You just now have more time doing more stuff that you don't want to do. And so you think, I don't have any time. No, it's not. You have plenty of time. You're just doing stuff you don't want to do.
Yeah. You're just spinning your wheels, babe. And you are busy being busy. And there's no value in that. There's no value in that for you. I don't value being busy. So don't fill your time with busyness.
Love it. So let's talk a little bit about your free gift. So every speaker has such a spirit of generosity. And I'm a firm believer, stay connected to Kate. Like, she's doing good stuff. She keeps it really real. She's a straight shooter. This is a woman that you want to follow. Follow her work, follow what she's releasing, follow the next book, read the book. I definitely recommend reading Me First. It's a great read. That being said, she's also got a free gift that will entice you to stay connected. So tell us about that gift, and we'll share with people how they can get access to it.
Yeah, so look, my free gift is a different framework to the one we've talked about today. And it sort of it assumes that you've done the work, you've got your time back, and you now want to create and curate that amazing life. So it's another framework that is around how to change your life in 90 seconds. And it takes you through the steps that you can take in literally 90 seconds to do amazing, crazy, audacious, brilliant things. It's basically, it's not goal setting, because oftentimes we start off with a concept of this amazing goal. I want to run a marathon. I want to climb the mountain. And we get excited about it for like 5 minutes, and then reality comes back in. It's like, oh, well, I don't have time, and I'm not fit, and, too hard. And it goes into the too hard basket and dies, right? So the framework I'm gifting is around how to harness little moments. A moment is actually 90 seconds of time. So let's work out all the little moments that we can harness so that maybe we get to that big, audacious climb the mountain, but what are the steps that I can take right now that are going to actually get me there? And it's a framework that I designed after my daughter was on student exchange to France for 5 months. And I decided I was going to go over and surprise her and spend the last 2 weeks with her. So I kind of had this vision of us, shopping in Paris and, eating baguettes. And I asked her what she wanted to do, what her vision was, and she wanted to go skiing. And I've never, ever been skiing in my life. I'm a beach girl. I live in Australia. And on its face, this goal just seemed so overwhelming. Oh my God, I don't know how to ski. I don't have the clothes. I don't have the gear. I don't like cold. I don't like wet, And my brain came up with 30 reasons why we shouldn't. And so I actually designed a framework to make sure that I did. And the framework worked for me. It works for my clients. So I'm gifting it to the listeners so that they can actually change their life in just 90 seconds.
Awesome. That's perfect. And that's the perfect way to end this conversation. And so with all of that, there's somewhere on this page, you'll see a link to Kate's gift. I don't know where it is. I think it's on the bottom of the video. So click on that link, enter your name and your email address, and all whatever other information she needs. Grab that beautiful gift and utilize it. And in doing so, you will stay connected to Kate. So with that being said, Kate, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your expertise. I want to thank you for just the spirit of generosity that you have and the swift kick in the behind, of truth speaking as well that you have. And so again, I want to make one final plug for me first. If any of what we talked about resonated with you, that book is really interesting. It's really funny. It's really quirky. And literally you'll wonder how she got in your head with some of the things that she says and her little character, Alice, and all that good stuff. It's a really great read. So with that, we just want to thank you all and we want to wish you all well, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.